Welcome to this City Commission workshop, January 25th. Today's workshop will be focused on public safety. I want to quickly acknowledge, and I'm sure you all will in your formal introduction comments, Sheriff McNeil, who is here, and also Chief Perry from Florida State University. And I don't see any of the other universities, and so welcome. We're happy to have you as part of today's conversation. Mr. Manager, I believe it's appropriate at this time to take any citizen comments on agenda items. Treasurer Clerk, are there any speakers?
I have one speaker, Johan von Toll. If speakers will come to this microphone to my left. If you give us your name and address, and we'll give you 3 minutes for your remarks. And while he's speaking, if there are other citizens who wish to comment, they can fill out a form on the back table and then just bring it up to me.
Good afternoon, everybody. I am Johan van Tol. I live 1503 Old Fort Drive. And I'm talking about an important safety issue in this town and in the county, and that is traffic safety. Last year, there were 39 fatalities in Leon County, which is higher than in 2000 and the year before and the year before. And and the number of crashes went up from 5,000 in 2011 to currently 7,500. So that is an increase of 10% each year. So 50% more crashes in 5 years, 30% more injuries in 5 years. And the number of people that are injured severely, life-changing injuries, you have to multiply kind of the fatality number typically by 3 to get an estimate of that. Traffic crashes are the leading cause of death for our 14 to 35-year-olds. And the direct cost of traffic crashes in Leon County, so this is just what kind of the insurance pays out, is about $49 million. The direct and indirect costs, if you include like the cost of fatalities, this is over $100 million, just in Leon County. And of course, many hours of emergency responders are related to traffic crashes, and fatality rates are much above the national average and about 3 times higher than in most places in Western Europe. So just a quote, so from the NHTSA administrator, Mark Rosekind, every single death on our roadways is a tragedy. We can prevent them. Our drive towards 0 deaths is more than just a worthy goal. It is the only acceptable goal. So I think we can do something here in Leon County and in the city of Tallahassee as well by analyzing what are the causes of all the crashes that we have here. Make safety plans for high crash corridors and roads like West Pensacola Street. Involve the community, stakeholders and the partners, and create a focused campaign that combines PSAs, brochures, as well as enforcement. Create a task force, prioritize equity, and pursue highway grants for materials and police overtime pay. The deadline for the FDOT is the end of February, by the way. And adopt the goal of 0 traffic deaths. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much.
That's the only speaker. I did not receive any others.
Right, great. Then no further speakers. I'll turn this part of the presentation over to the city manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, commissioners. During your public safety workshop of May 18th, 2016, you directed staff to develop a 5-year strategic plan. This workshop today provides an overview of that plan. In addition, staff will provide an update on the 2016 crime statistics and public communications efforts. The City Commission has made a significant investment in resources to support public safety, which have more effectively enabled TPD to address violent crime in the community. During 2016, there was a 16% reduction in violent crimes reported to the Tallahassee Police Department. Assistant City Manager Cynthia Barber will provide an overview of the presentation and the strategic plan. Chief DeLeo will provide additional details about each of the priorities, actions already taken, and future steps. Ashley Edwards will provide our services will discuss our services at the Palmer Monroe Teen Center and our partnership with This Village. And Allison Ferris will discuss how TPD's communication initiatives are reflective of the city's overall communications plan. So with that, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, I'll turn it over to Ms. Barber.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners, Mr. Manager, and appointed officials. I'd like to publicly thank you for your support of public safety. And we'd also like to thank you for this opportunity to provide the public safety update today. As Rick had mentioned last year in 2016, May 2016, we were before you to provide an update. And during that time, we talked about the need for us to focus on addressing crime in our community, particularly violent crime. So over the past year, we have spent quite a bit of time and effort, resources to address crime, and particularly violent crime. And as Mr. Fernandez has reported, there are some results that we're pretty proud of in terms of the reduction in the violent crime rate. As Rick has indicated, it was down 16% compared to 2015's crime rates. Then we also have spent quite a bit of effort working on, now that we are seeing some progress in violent crime, we've also spent some effort on communication and awareness activities, which we believe are most effective in addressing property crime. As we discussed when we were before you last time, we recognize that TPD nor the City of Tallahassee can handle the issue of crime alone. It's not ours alone to address. So we work, and we have worked with our partners in the community, as you will see as reflected here today, and we are extremely happy that they're here today, because we know that we can't do this alone. We have to partner with our law enforcement agencies, with our nonprofit organizations, with businesses to address crime in this community. And I wanted to take just a moment to, just so the audience gets a sense of the public gets a sense of the people who are here. You've mentioned that we have our sheriff here, and we're very happy that he's here. We're looking forward to working, the opportunity to work together to address crime. And the chief will talk more specifically about some of the initiatives that we believe we can work together on, and some that we are already working together on. Our universities, as you know, are a critical part of our community. So we work hand in hand also with our local universities. So we're very happy that Chief Perry has joined us today, and I believe your deputy chief is here as well. Okay, so we're happy he's here. You all know Sharon Afwani, the director of Crime Stoppers, another critical partner that we work with, so we're very happy that she's here. And I must not miss this, because I think that in terms of law enforcement, there's a general expectation that we work together. We're one community. When something happens, the neighbors don't try to think about whether I'm city or county or sheriff or police. They expect for us to work together. What I think is very unique is in this community, one that I'm very proud to be a native and a member of, is the way in which our citizens get involved in what we do and how they support us. We have one of those citizens with us today, Mr. Mutaki Akbar, a local attorney. We know that we don't always agree on issues in terms of what we do and how we do it, but the fact that we have a citizen who stepped forth, volunteers his time to work with us on issues related to crime that impact this community, I think is significant. So I want to thank you again for being here. And you'll hear a little bit more from the chief and see a little something about how he's helped us over the last few weeks to address some of the issues that we talk about. One of the things you asked us for when we were before you last time was a strategic plan, because I think there was a sense that you would hear one need at a time or one challenge at a time, but ask us to be more strategic in identifying the issues that we face as well as the needs of the department. So we've developed a 5-year strategic plan in that regard that we hope that you will agree with us is a good foundation for not only addressing crime in this community, but doing it consistent with a community policing organization. We talked a lot about that last time in terms of how to address crime. The more traditional role of the police department is to arrest your way out of a situation, but through your leadership and your commitment, you have already given us direction and indicated that you don't believe that we can arrest ourselves out of this situation, and community policing is a good way for us to address it. So we'll talk today about community policing because it is at the core of our strategic plan. Each element of the plan will talk about what is needed in order not just to get the job done, but how to do it in a way that's consistent with community policing. In terms of the approach for the plan, there was a team developed in TPD, which was comprised of sworn and non-sworn personnel, mostly closest to the front line as we could get it, because we believe that that's one way to get their commitment and buy-in to the plan is to help them, to have them to help to develop it, and in fact, in this case, to take primary responsibility for getting it off the ground and getting the work done. So the chief will talk some about, in a lot more detail about the plan. And we like to say that community policing is not what we do, it is who we are. It talks about the culture, the structure, the processes, the policies. So it's not an initiative, it's not a project. But what we want is when you interact with us, any of our officers, anybody in our department, that's why the communication throughout the department is critical, not just for sworn, is that you have a sense that that's who we are, not just simply something that we do. In terms of the plan and the presentation, because it is designed to just map out the strategic plan. That's what this presentation is about. We'll talk about agency restructuring, which is a critical component of a community policing organization. Are you structured in a way that supports implementing a strategy of community policing? So we had to look at our organization, and the chief will tell you about the changes that we've made to better align the organization to become more consistent with community policing. It'll talk about our public safety priorities, what have we done to address crime in not simply the traditional format. We don't walk away completely from traditional goals and tasks, but there's an overlying desire to implement community policing. So our workforce priorities, do we have the right number of people, the right kind of people working in the right places in the community, and what kinds of activities are we engaged in? We'll talk about communications priorities because, again, we believe on a lot of the property crime and nonviolent related crimes, education and awareness and communication about those issues is very, very critical. And then how do you improve community, internal communication in order to better serve the community? Then, of course, we'll talk about facility priorities. During your retreat, we were very pleased to hear you talk about the need to address the facility that the police department's in. We've outgrown that space, not only in the numbers that we have, but when you look at, that's another aspect also of community policing. When you look at your facility, you look at how does it contribute to you being a community policing organization. Is it located in the right area? Does it have the right structure? Do we have the right space in our facility? And so we're very pleased to hear that. Of course, if we had our druthers, we would want to be located on the South Side. We believe that it makes a strong statement about our commitment to the South Side. We also would like space that our community could share. So when we have academies now, we have events which you'll hear about that we now do in the community. We still want to do some of those, but a lot of them we do because we don't have the adequate space in our facility. But if with a more adequate space, we can have the community come to TPD. And I think that goes a long way in building relationships. So you pass your chief in the hallway, you're passing the officers that you deal with in the community, and you're interacting with us on a proactive base, not when there's a situation or a problem, but it allows us, I think, in an environment like that to build better relationships. So with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Chief DeLeo, who will provide more detail about some of the things I've discussed, as well as add some other information to the presentation.
Thank you. I appreciate your time. I know this is obviously public safety is at the forefront of everyone's minds over the last few years, and I appreciate your support. You have provided a lot of resources the last few years to help the agency grow and meet the changing demands and needs of our community, and I'm very appreciative of that and of your time today. You know, we talk about community policing a lot, and everybody always asks, well, what does that mean? What does that mean that we're going to do differently? How does that mean we're going to interact with the public? How does that mean day-to-day business? And what I want to do is take a few minutes and kind of go over that foundation again. The pictures that you see here are one of our officers, Officer Wes Birch, responding to a noise complaint at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. A traditional law enforcement response to the noise complaint would have been to show up and then take appropriate enforcement action within the ordinance. Give it the warning, you've got 10 minutes to shut down your party, fix the noise. If you don't do it, then you take the issue a citation and write your police report, and you move on to the next call for service. What we want to do, and what Officer Birch did, is look beyond. This was a birthday party for a 21-year-old special needs man. Officer Birch turned what could have been a very negative interaction and experience into a positive one. He spent quite a bit of time out there with the young man and his friends in the party, and the pictures that you see were not taken by us. They were taken by members of the neighborhood, who then sent them and provided them to us, telling us how proud they were of their police department and of their officers, and about how they made this young man's birthday that much more special. So the issue was not only resolved from the one neighbor's standpoint, but it was taking the time to make sure it resolved in a positive way, create a wonderful interaction, and we know that we're on the right track and we're governing ourselves in the right manner when the public proactively is reaching out to us and saying how wonderful some of our officers are doing, the way they interact with the public, the way they treat people with respect and dignity, and that is what community policing is about. Regardless of the circumstances, looking for the positive interaction and the most beneficial way to resolve a situation for everybody that's involved. And in this case, we were able to resolve that situation where the people who were the cause of the complaint ended up thanking us. And that's what community policing is. And that's the direction built on the traditions of really what Sheriff McNeil was building when he was here at Tallahassee Police Department, and continue to build on that foundation and making it the fabric of everything that we do. And I just wanted to use that story to kind of illustrate this is what community policing is, and this is what we are trying to, what's going to drive what we do and how we do it. Community policing, too, is about developing partnerships within the community and reaching out however we can and doing things outside that traditional sense. And though, while we want to be able to host certainly more events within a new facility that we are all very excited about, and the growth of the agency and what we're going to be able to do there and the visions that we have for that, the fact is we also want to go out and make sure that we continue to meet people in settings that they're comfortable in and create the opportunities for those positive interactions. One of the things we started this last fall is Coffee with a Cop in partnership with McDonald's, with our local McDonald's, where at least once a month we have a planned date where typically myself and members of my staff or officers that are working in the area. Sometimes we have midnight officers that hang over and spend a little bit of time, and day shift officers that are coming in. And what we do is we just hang out at the McDonald's and we sit down and we have breakfast with people. And whatever they want to talk about, we talk about. And what McDonald's did is they actually put together a video. So if you don't mind, I'd like to play the video that McDonald's put together and kind of share that experience with you.
So we're here at McDonald's in Tallahassee, Florida for Law Enforcement Appreciation Day.
We do a Coffee with a Cop every month. We come out and we spend a couple hours in each of the different restaurants.
Here at McDonald's, we just want to provide the place for the community and local law enforcement to come together, have informal talk,
It's a wonderful time to come out. It's very relaxed. There's no speeches. We have to get out into the community and hear the concerns. Simply standing and having a conversation with people certainly changes things. We're simply here to speak with the citizens, have conversations, open up a dialogue between ourselves and our citizens that we serve.
He's cute.
And that's just a reflection of, again, partnership with our community, partnership with businesses, and trying to create the opportunities to meet with people in their comfort zone, not just ours. And there's opportunities where people can discuss what they wanted to talk about, bring up issues, challenges, and just to get to know each other. And this is what is the driving force behind your police department and what we're impressing the values throughout the entire agency. So we just want to take a few minutes to share those things with you before we get into the meat of the plan. Agency restructuring happened this past November, December, and throughout all literature on community-oriented policing, organizational transformation is just a key component. You can have wonderful philosophies, intentions, but if your organizational structure doesn't support what you're trying to accomplish, it's not going to work. This transformation focuses on our agency management, the personnel, and technology and information systems to make sure that we have all these pillars covered to make sure that we are on the right track of reinforcing community policing in everything that we do. And each of these factors will be reinforced and addressed throughout the strategic plan. We adopted this leadership structure that you see before you to enhance communication, decentralize and accelerate decision-making, increase transparency, promote accountability, and develop our personnel for the future. We eliminated the rank of captain and the position of Administrative Services Bureau Director. Each bureau is now led by a major who reports directly to the deputy chief, improving the flow of communication by eliminating one layer of bureaucracy. The new bureaus have more specific functions to ensure the development of personnel while building the specialized knowledge in these critical areas of the agency. Each of the majors meet with myself and the deputy chief once a week to ensure that the information flow is there, that decisions are made in a timely manner, and that we are always keeping on point with making sure that we're addressing the goals and specific challenges, whether it's on a day-to-day basis or the long-term strategies that you'll see laid out before you. With that, most of my majors are here today, and I'd like to take a brief moment to introduce you. I know that most of you know them, but I think it's important that the public can recognize their faces and know who to address. So at the end, you have Major Steve Outlaw, one of my patrol majors. Major Jason Larson, who is the major in charge of the Criminal Investigations Bureau. Major Rod Young, who you saw working on his retirement job at McDonald's, and who works with special operations. Major Lawrence Revel, who is in charge of our new High-Risk Offenders Bureau. Teresa Flory is our new legal advisor. She's been with us for about 6 or 7 months now. Wonderful support through the city attorney's office, and she works almost full-time with us and then does other support functions for some other departments as well. Major Elizabeth Dillon is our other patrol bureau. And then Lieutenant Yan is here. Lieutenant Yan is the acting major for our Personnel Development Bureau. Apparently Major Smith retired because she had a better job offer from somebody else in the room. Major Smith retired and joined the sheriff's office a few months ago, had a great opportunity to move on in her career and find some new challenges. So we're currently advertising that position, getting ready to fill it. Lieutenant Yan is the acting major over that bureau. I mean, the primary goal for police agencies is public safety, and so that is the first and foremost goal for our public safety strategies. And each of the slides will outline the goal overall. Our initial primary goal is to strengthen our community policing efforts through increased collaboration. I think you can see that today just by our partners who are here. Again, we'll talk about some more details with some of the different partnerships and relationships that we've had over the past years and how we hope to grow those in the future, not just with our law enforcement partners, but our business community and our citizens as well. A crucial partner with the police department has always been Parks, Recreation, and Neighborhood Affairs. We both drive home that all of us have a special spot in our hearts for children, and making sure they have the resources and opportunities that we hope that they all get and deserve. And we partner. Last summer at our workshop, we presented a lot of information to you about all our joint programs from spring break and summertime and throughout the year that we do. And we constantly, Director Edwards and I keep in touch, and we work a lot of different programs together. And I know Director Edwards is going to spend a few minutes discussing their primary efforts at Palm and Monroe and how we work with Disc Village through that partnership.
Thank you, Chief. The Palmer Monroe Teen Center continues to be a vibrant part of this effort in our community. And Mr. Mayor, with your help, we've been able to meet with this village, and we're very pleased that they have recognized the Community Connections Program as one of the programs that they can now refer youth to through the civil citations process. We are also in discussion with Leon County School System. They have an interest, and we are very interested in as well, in having teachers, administrators, and guidance counselors be able to give direct referrals to the Community Connections Program as a part of their school discipline process. One of the reasons we're so excited about that is we feel that the Community Connections Program works best when you catch kids before they get into the juvenile justice system. And we feel that the program itself has a lot of skills that these kids learn that will hopefully allow them to cope and keep them out of that system. So we're very excited about the opportunities that are ahead of us with that program, and continue to work hand in hand with the chief at any opportunity that we have to work with kids in our programs to help keep them out of his program. So.
Again, Ashley and I work very well together, and we're always looking for new ways that we can collaborate and again, also help create those opportunities for our officers, again, to have those positive interactions with our young men and women throughout our community. In addition, I also have a meeting with Superintendent Hannah at the end of this week to follow up on exploring new opportunities where we can partner more proactively with the schools to see what the police department can do with the schools, in addition to help build on those relationships.
Just a quick follow-up on the, I'm hoping to meet with Superintendent Hannah and the sheriff, and I also have a meeting upcoming as well. But I was looking at some research, and I think it may have been out of the Ithaca Police Department, but they had suspended the use of arrest on campus in schools. And something like the graduation rate tipped up by 20% over the survey period of time. And I'm interested to see, obviously, as you all discuss that more deeply, whether or not there's an opportunity moment. I think they did a temporary suspension, and then they just don't do it anymore at all on the high school, middle school, elementary school campuses. And then as it relates to the teen center, because I think we've seen a lot of success, especially when we look at reducing recidivism rates. I think the real challenge there, at least up to this point, is it's been location specific. And Commissioners, one of the things that I've said before, and also have said in meetings with Ashley, that the real opportunity moment there is if we could take the programmatic piece and lift it into other parts of our interface with youth in our city. So other neighborhood and community centers where, particularly in areas that are more challenged, instead of having it so specific to Palmer Monroe, the physical facility itself, trying to execute that level of programming in other parts of our community. So less attached to the bricks and mortar and much more attached to the actual work, the programming in and of itself. And I believe you all are working on increasing the level of referrals, both direct referrals from, the referrals from Disc Village, but also at the opportunity that either on the school campuses or at the front line where law enforcement is, can also make referrals into it, themselves.
Yes, sir.
Mayor, let me ask you a question
Please.
before we go. The suspension of arrests, was that even when crimes were committed on the campuses, they didn't arrest?
So what they did is, if I understood it correctly, they basically de-weaponized they decreased the use of school resource officers for on-campus arrests, except in the most severe of circumstances. So, you probably remember a point at which resource officers were just sort of, monitoring, home monitoring. It's sort of gone into a different realm of work, partly because it might be necessary in some cases, and partly because it just happens to be the default security on campus. But I think it's worth just looking into what the studies have to say about it. Don't take my word for it.
No, I'm familiar with some of those programs, because I think, so many school systems went to zero tolerance towards different activities on campus, in the late 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, and they saw how it impacted graduation rates and success rates, and now throughout the country, they're looking at rolling back those programs and say, what can we do more proactively and less punitively to ensure the student has the best ability to finish school? So I'm familiar with Mayor. And those are good opportunities, again, to ensure the long-term success of somebody. As I've started talking about, and you've heard for a couple years from me now, community-oriented policing is our driving force. And one of the things we want to make sure that we talked about today was not just what we plan to do tomorrow and next month and next year, but also things that we have been working on as we've been working. We didn't just sit and write a plan and stop everything else, all the things that we've implemented as we're moving along. This past year in 2016, we provided community-oriented policing training to our entire agency again. And then what we did is, following that, as part of our Operation Safe Neighborhoods in partnership with the Mayor's Office and our community partners throughout the city, we also had community-oriented policing forums where the officers who worked in those neighborhoods presented the community-oriented policing philosophy to the people that they work for. So it wasn't the neighborhoods and our community hearing it from me as a mouthpiece, but they were hearing from the officers, the people who work in their neighborhoods and work in their areas. Those officers had to answer the questions from the neighborhood and the community members to show that it's not just me sitting up here giving lip service to an idea or a concept. This is throughout our entire organization, and that the men and women who are responsible for the day-to-day activities carrying it out understand it's important, can apply it appropriately, and have a working knowledge of it, and they can communicate it effectively with the people they work for. So that was one of the things that we did starting last spring through the summer. We have, again, I think community policing, an important component is the transparency, trust building, and accountability. And one of the things that we've been pursuing, obviously, is the implementation of a body-worn camera program. We've had several different conversations about that. We are in the middle of pursuing the grant right now. The grant application is due in mid-February. We've reached out to many of our community partners. State Attorney Campbell has agreed to support us in this initiative, which will greatly assist us, because that is a major component of the grant process. So having the state attorney support will really help move that forward. Public Defender Andy Thomas is going to write us a letter of support as well. The Urban League, Chamber of Commerce, and NAACP are all also providing letters of support. We've talked to all of them about our plans and how we want to do it, and to show that it's a community-wide driven effort. It's not just the police department, but again, it's that partnership with everybody to say how important this is for our community, again, to promote that transparency, to build upon the trust, and to provide the accountability of that neutral record gatherer.
Great. Commissioner Maddox.
Just a quick question. I see that the COPS grant is under attack on the federal level. If that gets discontinued, will the officers that we currently have under COPS grant will it pay for the entire term that we were originally granted?
I don't know is the honest answer. That's kind of unexplored territory. We've never had it. We've always, if there's been a funding issue, it's always been on the front end of the government is always only going to fund this much prospectively out in the future. They've never retroactively taken awards away before. That would shock me.
They're looking at eliminating the program. If they do, I would hope that they would take whatever's in the pipeline for the original award and allow that to reach its ending terminus. But something we ought to keep an eye on.
No, that is certainly our hopes, and all politics aside, obviously, I think that would be a bad thing for everybody, for not just our community, but really, nationwide, as far as the great work that's been done through the COPS office and supporting public safety throughout our entire country, not just with the staffing, but with the support programs and training programs that they provide. There's a lot of opportunities that would be missed. So, in addition, one of our future plans with the additional staffing, as our agency has grown, is we plan to divide the South District into two and go from 3 primary areas of patrol operations into 4. By doing this, it will enhance our ability to have greater interaction with the neighborhoods. The officers won't have as big of an area to patrol, so they'll be able to even build better relationships because they'll have a smaller area of responsibility. They'll be more accountable to those particular neighborhoods. And with the additional staffing, and I'll give a hiring update here in a few minutes, we hope to be able to achieve that in the next 2 years or so, where we'll be able to create smaller areas of responsibility for the officers and supervisors so they can continue to build those relationships and be more effective in their day-to-day activities. Violent crime has been our priority for the last year or more. That's certainly not a secret. And one of our other primary goals is to reducing violent crime through the use of additional resources. And again, this is not just law enforcement resources. All of you have been very supportive in looking at the big comprehensive picture. You've addressed this goal in a variety of ways. One of the critical components has been your support and increased funding to the CHSP process. The human services component of public safety cannot be overlooked, cannot be overemphasized. We have to provide those support mechanisms from early childhood all the way through adulthood. And to emphasize on that is your recent support for the Ready for Work program, the new reentry program that we're supporting and working with Reverend Holmes on. We have to provide those support mechanisms to give people those new opportunities, either initial opportunities starting out with our small children from early childhood learning opportunities all the way throughout adulthood, and that having those human services providers is so critical and addresses those needs for things that certainly the police department's not qualified to deal with, but sometimes we end up dealing with the symptoms of not having those proper resources up front.
Just, Commissioners, on that note, I want to just echo that, the work this commission did, I think we've added $1 million a year for the last 2 years in this space. I don't think can be, as the chief said, overstated the continuum of interventions that have to be had on the road to sort of keeping the community safe. One part of that I wanted to follow up on with you, Chief, is I don't know what the exact number is, but of the 9 or so homicides of 2016, how many of them were domestic in nature? And to that end, because if I remember just the headlines and the reading and the pulling back of each one of those stories, there were quite a few of them.
Yes, sir.
And I don't think the solution there is a sort of like, it's hard to predict, and so there's no way to sort of get in front of it, but there are human services partner organizations that do work in that domestic space particularly. I'm wondering what role does our relationship with those folks sort of come into keeping that under control?
Okay. Yeah, Mayor, to that point, one of the things we're working on is, again, we talked about some of those things we don't have as much direct responsibility or information about. So partnering with those agencies, creating PSAs and videos. We strongly believe working with the universities regarding the students, putting more focus on, they don't spend all their time on campus. A lot of times they're in the community. What can we do? So we believe ours is education and awareness in partnership with them, whether it's a special event on campus or within the community at large. But we are working with communication, and you'll see an example. We're not trying to wear you out with these videos, but it is an approach that we think will work because of the platforms, the various platforms where we can place that information. So we are working on them, and later in the presentation, you'll see an example of some of the kinds of topics we intend to address, which for a lot of them, they have designated months. We don't know if we'll wait until that particular month. It may be based on some intelligence we have about the issue in our community, and it may be maybe we need to address it now rather than wait for a specific month. But we'll talk about that in just a little bit, show you some of the things. That's not an exhaustive list, but it's a good list of some of the kinds of things that we see and hear about that we believe people need to know where the resources are in the community, how to access those resources. And of course, our officers are aware of those and making sure we're making the appropriate referrals, but just communicating and educating around them.
And we work closely with the Refuge House and Meg Baldwin, making not just referrals on cases where there's arrest made, where they get copies of reports and things like that, but our victim advocates work very closely with the resources through the Refuge House and make sure that even if someone doesn't want to pursue a criminal case, that we do make sure that we link them to the appropriate social services provider, provides transportation sometimes even, and make sure that we are trying to provide that full circle of care that needs to be provided as well. We talk about our different law enforcement partnerships, and I just want to give an example. Last night, as many of you are aware, that we have had a few robberies at some of the Dollar General stores and other things. We've been having a joint operation with the Sheriff's Office the past week or so. And last night, again, the teamwork between the two organizations was outstanding, between Sheriff McNeil's personnel at the Sheriff's Office and TPD folks. They were doing surveillance throughout the city and the county, observed a vehicle match that we thought was related, that were staking out a liquor store. The people left. They started following the vehicle, ended up being it was a stolen vehicle from Tallahassee. Throughout the coordinated efforts, nobody was hurt, first of all, most importantly, but we were able to arrest 3 of the 4 occupants. A firearm was recovered in the vehicle, and they're doing additional follow-up on that, and these gentlemen's link, the gentleman term is loosely, but linked to the additional robberies that we've had the past few weeks. But again, the close relationship, working relationship with the agencies, and Sheriff McNeil and I also have some plans to get together next week or so to discuss additional opportunities for collaboration, how we can continue to build on those successes. And I think it's, yes, sir. Absolutely, sir. Yes.
Just real quickly, just one clarification. The car was stolen in Quincy.
Oh, and
we have a significant issue of people in Quincy and other counties coming to our community, and that's really significant for us. We got to look at this from a global perspective.
Thank you. Since the police chief left in Quincy, crime went up, I noticed.
Well, on that note, though, because it's an important point, which is what does the coordination look like with the law enforcement entities in the region?
Yes. No, we continue to build those, and when we talk about property crime, we'll talk about auto thefts a little bit, and we've had multiple operations where it's not just been TPD and Leon County Sheriff's Office, but it's also been Gadsden County involved, Quincy PD, and the other agencies as well.
And we've also had representatives from the Sheriff Department in Quincy come over and review their programs with us. They have a lot of community-oriented policing programs, and it's my turn next to go over to talk with them. So we do stay in touch and communicate with them as well.
Mayor.
Well, sorry, Commissioner.
And you may not have gotten to this, and you may be covering it, so I'll sit back if that's the case. But I wanted you to describe a little bit more about collaborating with the community groups and how you do that and what that looks like.
Okay. Well, it'll be throughout. Kind of, we saw a little bit with the McDonald's video. We work with a lot of different community organizations. Just mentions the support of some of them with the body camera grant, like the Urban League. We coordinate victim advocacy services with them, not just through referrals, but we also provide support when they're not able necessarily. They may not have the staff to meet the needs of a certain case. So we refer. Not only do we refer people to them and through them, but sometimes they'll refer people back to us because sometimes we have additional resources that they may not have. We work very closely with the Refuge House, last year through the joint partnership.
Yeah, I understand. I wanted to be clear on that.
Okay.
I also wanted to ask you what predictive policing is.
Yes. And that's, I was just getting ready to talk about the technology part. So we refer to the technology in this part of the plan. The RFP for the new records management system that was funded in this year's capital plan goes out today. That will give us the ability to really enhance our information gathering and sharing ability. Right now, we have some disparate systems. This will bring everything under one umbrella for us, where all our information will be consolidated into one system. We'll be able to track crime activity, officer activity, to make sure that our efforts are going in the right direction. It'll give us the ability to look at patterns of crime, not only just what's occurred recently, but what's occurred historically. Like, certainly all the folks that are here that have been here certainly a lot longer than I have in this region can tell you that basically, every winter break, we know that we're going to have a spike of residential burglaries when our students go home. And, our criminal element knows that there's a lot of unoccupied houses. So we develop operational plans and we do surveillance and we do what we can, but there's always that increase because people know that there's nobody home. And certain, you've got whole apartment complexes that are almost vacant. So so what predictive policing will do, not just with those traditional long-term trends, it'll help us project out activities that are occurring, specific crimes, regions, to make sure that we're directing our resources the most appropriate way. It'll help us make better decisions on staffing, scheduling, and what we're doing operationally as well. And that'll be able to be done through the additional in the RMS. And not only when we are able to collect that better information, we'll be able to share it better with our partners. And that way we'll be able to be all on the same page, share that information more accurately and that more fully, so that way we all know what each other's working. If we have the same suspects, same similar crime trends, that we can, again, build on those partnerships.
Thank you.
And you may be addressing it later. If you are, just say, I'll address that later, Commissioner. You and I have had the conversation about pre-arrest diversion for adults.
Yes.
And the mayor clearly mentioned the need to be able to respond and lower our recidivism rate. So the pre-arrest diversion program is very successful.
Yes.
Are there any other ways we can expand that, or we're using it at the most we can? Because clearly it keeps people out of the criminal justice system. So the more we can do that, I think the better.
And what we do is we're not looking to expand at this point. We are kind of keeping an eye on certainly the proposed legislation and see how that will affect not only, juvenile civil citation, but adult civil citation.
Right.
We are one of the few jurisdictions in the state that has the adult civil citation program. And what we've done is that is the primary tool of an officer in what would traditionally be an arrest situation if it's a nonviolent misdemeanor.
Right.
The one hangup that we tend to run into is the lack of interest in either the victim or the suspect sometimes, because the parties have to agree to participate. Otherwise, it can't be utilized. What we do is there's actually less work involved for an officer to issue a civil citation than it is to make an arrest. So what we've done is we've eliminated all the barriers, bureaucratic, paperwork, things like that, and it's actually a smoother, easier process. An officer actually has to provide justification why they don't utilize a civil citation in lieu of arrest whenever it's possible. So we've done is educate, encourage our officers to use it, provide all the tools and resources, made it as a streamlined, smooth process as possible. We have not looked at expanding it beyond those crimes at this point because they are the nonviolent minor crimes. And from there, we just would have to look at how far do we want to move that line.
Commissioners and Mayor and Chief, I'm going to put you on the spot if you remember, but the numbers from a recidivism standpoint are substantial.
When the people complete the program, whether it's adult or juvenile, typically you never see them back in the system again, whether it's adult or juvenile. Both programs typically, upon successful completion, and that's the key, is that they do have to finish the program, is when they complete the program, the rate of recidivism is less than 15% between adults and juveniles. And I don't have the numbers, I apologize offhand, but it's a very successful program as far as the education and providing, whether it's the adult or juvenile, the resources they need to make better decisions.
But even the folks that don't complete it all the way, their numbers are even lower than, as I recall.
Just our general population, for lack of a better term. Yes, sir.
Commissioner?
Florida State University still doesn't have a civil citation program, correct?
I don't think
Florida State University uses a juvenile civil citation program, but not for adults.
To me, that is a gaping need. I don't know who makes that policy decision, but that is where instead of putting 19-year-olds through the criminal justice system for open containers and fake IDs, which they're now being charged for identity theft or manufactured IDs where a felony charge, where the statute was designed to stop terrorists, and we're taking 19-year-olds and putting them through the juvenile justice system on felony charges for fake IDs, to me, screams for civil citations. So I don't know what we can do as a government to encourage Florida State to do that, but it just seems, and you definitely have a have and a have-not situation from the kids that get those charges and can afford an attorney versus the kids that get those charges and cannot. But I hate to see us saddle 19-year-olds with felonies for a crime that I gladly took part in at Florida State University, and thousands and thousands of other students did as well.
We take it very seriously. The university has considered it. We still don't underestimate the power of an officer's discretion when we deal with those types of situations. Usually it's a mitigating circumstance when there are other crimes or incidents involved when a fake ID is used as a charge. It's not the sole basis for probably more than 80% of our cases. So we take that into consideration and we reviewed it, and we have other judicial means to dispose of cases, meaning the system for disciplinary measures on campus. So we have a system that we also deal with disciplinary issues.
But they have to go through both of those, right? So if they're charged, they got to go through state attorney's office and that judicial process. At the same time, they go through the FSU process for disciplinary.
It could. It could be one, it could be the other, or it could be both, depending on the severity of the offense.
Chief, do you require also the justification when dealing with the juvenile?
Yes, sir.
piece on both sides?
Yes. No, the process was established and has been maintained to encourage the use and promote the use of the civil citation in any case possible.
And how does the current policy view drug charges? So
Misdemeanor marijuana would be a civil citation offense. Any felony
and
charges
does
are
the gram,
not.
I mean, the size?
Less than 20 grams, sir.
And that's the state's standard, is that?
That's the state standard for a misdemeanor charge.
And does the local, we're not allowed to go beyond the state, is that right? Or?
That opens the case of certainly the issues that we're dealing with, home rule and things like that, as far as can we,
But a clean reading of the
Well,
law
no,
is
but
what?
basically the civil citation program was established on the misdemeanor charges, as agreed upon by us and the state attorney and the sheriff at the time.
But I guess a more direct question is at the local level, could we negotiate our own rules around that with cooperation from the state attorney's office, the sheriff?
I have an attorney over here shaking his head.
I don't think you could change it from a misdemeanor to a felony.
No, I don't mean the upgrade. I mean this, if
City of Miami
More
did
than
it.
20 grams.
City of
Yeah,
Miami
please.
did it.
More than 20
Let me frame it. I think the question is, can you use the civil citation program for things other than misdemeanor?
I don't know statutorily that's permitted for the juveniles at this point. I
wouldn't think so.
I don't think you can right now, the way the statute's written.
And right now, the statute dictates that 20 grams is,
A misdemeanor, yes, sir.
and then above
Everything above is a felony.
is a felony. Got
Yes,
it.
sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Just to expand, if I could, Mr.
Please,
Mayor, I think it would be valuable, though, to have a greater conversation with our universities, just to try to get on a clearer page between all of us. Students sometimes don't know when they're leaving jurisdictions.
But, I mean, open container,
Yeah.
open container arrests that I'm familiar with by Florida State University go to the state attorney's office, and they go through a diversion program at the state attorney's office,
They're already arrested.
rather than a civil citation. And those are happening by the hundreds. So,
That's not on their record then.
I mean, I think it would probably be worth it to get this village's information, but a lot of those folks, I mean, my issue with the Dis Village piece was really the price point. Because if you could afford the $300 or whatever dollars that it took, most people went that route. And these were largely students. If you looked at the demographics of the folks who were impacted, I'm recalling, but I don't recall everything about what the conversation was on the university side with regard to the civil citation piece. And I think part of it had a little bit to do with the institutional reputation that you all were trying to get greater control over. not worth repeating. But maybe, Chief, it would be worth, maybe you and the Chief, the Sheriff, and others sort of understanding that a little bit better rather than, frankly, Chief, hassling you over issues that probably are beyond that decision level. I think it's more president level conversation. Commissioner.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Obviously, FAMU and TCC aren't represented here today. I don't know why, but it would certainly be worth it to have them involved in that discussion as well.
Do you recall what the policy is on those two campuses with regard to civil citations? Chief Perry, do you know?
I know for juveniles, definitely. There's a concern, so you don't want to decriminalize or give the perception that everyone gets to.
I remember.
Way. So there's just discussions, as you said, with the president, Vice President for Student Affairs, and others.
So I just want to be clear. So for juveniles, Florida State uses a civil citation program. So for MIPs, they go through a civil citation program. They don't go through state attorney's office.
Juveniles?
Juveniles. Under
the juvenile.
So under the 18 or under would do that. 18 and over, but under 21 would go through the state attorney process. Thank you.
And there is obviously discretion at the state attorney's level too, which has been part of our conversation with them, is more practice with the use of the adult civil citation, and which, by the way, we're leading on. I mean, we should give them credit where credit is due, that the state attorney's office here in this county, and I know Secretary Daley has been encouraging this all throughout the state, to get a greater use on the adult side. But again, they even on the adult side, it's first time, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
So it's,
But
so
they don't have
multiple-
the discretion outside of the arresting agency. So
they can exercise.
they can so if
They can do.
if Florida State makes an arrest that goes through the criminal justice program, not through civil citation, the state attorney can overrule that and make a civil citation, or they can send it to
Make the referral
diversion.
to civil citation at the state attorney's
I was
level. They
unaware
can
of that.
choose to take it further or make the referral.
Isn't the idea to do pre-arrest? I mean, that's.
Yes, the idea is to
Absolutely.
not have any record at
Anything-
all.
That's right.
Yes.
Now, I mean, it's worth stating, and I think that maybe the new state attorney has a new philosophy, has an expanded philosophy on this, but, they wanted to be able to keep a record in case, so it may be your first time at the time that they encounter you, but they weren't able to look retroactively. If they got you again, they wanted to be able to bring both, which is where we have had a little bit of an issue.
I guess my concern is the disparity, because we have some agencies that use it and some agencies do not.
Right.
So if you had a fake ID or a minor in possession, you now have, and you're not a juvenile, you now have a criminal record that is there. If you're Jameis Winston and you stole crab legs, you do not.
Correct.
Correct, because Lena County Sheriff's Office issued a civil citation.
Correct.
Just like City of Tallahassee issues civil citations. So depending on what color the uniform is of the person that arrests you for your transgression greatly affects how that will follow you for the rest of your life. In a community where we have one city in the county and two universities and a community college, we should be able to figure that out, that we should all be reading from the same sheet of music.
I don't disagree.
Need to work on that.
Excuse me.
Chief?
Sorry.
No. So, you're the drivers. We're just here to try to provide the highlights and answer the questions. I do want to talk, though, just briefly, again, with the partnerships. We also have very strong investigative partnerships with FSU. We recently, they were working a drug case, and not a small drug case, a rather significant drug case that went well beyond their borders at the campus. They continued that investigation. We provided some support, and it was a significant seizure with about 25 pounds of marijuana or so, Chief. And that was was stored within the city limits outside the campus. But again, it's those partnerships dealing with the high-level crimes that we all work very closely on, and we provide the support mechanisms for them as well. So again, there's a lot of success stories of our partnerships and our officers and our deputies working together. Back to the technology part, I know this is something that we've had some different conversations on about our CAD data and being able to keep better track of our citizen interactions with our officers. Currently, officers track traffic stops through our CAD data, provide the information, demographics, reasons for stops, search codes, things like that. We recently met with a consultant for the CAD data to see what we can do to provide better information, collect better information, so we can provide a full picture of our officers' activities. The intent is to expand our capabilities long-term to incorporate pedestrian encounters in all traffic stops. With the new records management system and enhanced CAD data collection, working with this consultant long-term, the goal is to be able to map our criminal activity, our citizen concerns, as we track those better, and then the officer activity to make sure that we are policing in the right areas the right way. And that way we'll be able to use that as a management tool to conduct analysis to provide, are we doing the right things in the right areas for the right purposes?
Can you give us a timeline on that? I mean, I think we funded this, 2 years ago, some of the data exploration, or what you all had identified as basically data insufficiencies?
Yeah, well, the records management system was funded in this year's capital plan. So the funding was approved this past September. The RFP is going out today. Okay. So the timeline for completion of that project is September 2018. By the time we go through the RFP process, the vendor selection, and then the technology implementation and training component, training our 600 employees how to use the new system and to go fully live, is September 2018 for that process for the records management system. The CAD data consultant was not something that was separately funded. Through our different conversations, I had reached out to Dr. Friedel, who literally wrote the textbook on police stops and racial disparities, and asked her for some references, some starting points for people that work in the field specifically. She made some recommendations. Dr. Smith from the University of Texas, El Paso, flew out here himself this past November, end of November, beginning December, and met with our staff for a few days. And they met with our line officers, our command staff, our technology folks, and he gave us just a brief overview of some recommendations to give us the opportunity to explore a longer-term relationship on what we can do better through the CAD system and through the records management system of collecting that data so we can build that full picture that we all want to make sure that we have. David? As the gentleman stated before we began, traffic is also a major component of our public safety strategies. We realize the impact of our traffic crashes, not just to our motorists, but also our pedestrians and our bicyclists. And we have implemented a plan to start working, just as he said, utilizing data, identifying, high-frequency locations to make sure that we're doing that for enhanced enforcement. But our main focus and emphasis is on education first and foremost. The diagram you see up there was actually a tweet we sent out after the holiday break as school was getting ready to go back into session, just to remind our community, our parents, our drivers on how to approach a school bus. Little things like that, little learning curves, reminders to make sure people are driving the safest way possible. So like I said, our emphasis is first on education and then enforcement as appropriate. We are trying to incorporate more data-driven enforcement efforts to identify the key locations and times. Again, our collaboration with our partners. Just a few weeks ago, we had a joint DUI enforcement checkpoint between us, the Sheriff's Office, FSUPD, and FHB. We're all participants, and we go out and do drug and alcohol enforcement and impaired driving. So we are also trying to expand our pedestrian education. We do have a lot of people who walk between the downtown area and certainly our university campuses, and making sure that people are aware of their responsibilities, not just our drivers, but also our pedestrians, and using the resources that are available. We have, with the crosswalks, make sure that they understand the repercussions, and then following that up. And we're looking to really kick off major campaigns in the future at the beginning of each semester when we have that new crop of freshmen and transfer students that come in, to hopefully continue to remind them and make them aware of their responsibilities too. We do participate in a number of Department of Transportation funded grants that help fund extra enforcement activities. We have overtime grants that help fund overtime for DUI enforcement and pedestrian safety and seatbelt safety enforcement. So we do participate in those different Department of Transportation safety grants that the gentleman mentioned at the beginning of the workshop. The next major component of our plan is our workforce and recruiting initiatives. You have been tremendously supportive the last few years in helping us fund the additional officers needed to support all the public safety initiatives, in addition to make sure that we are finding the right people. I just want to touch base. Last year around this time, we had approximately 50 vacancies for officers. We have 10 people starting the academy class tomorrow. With those 10 starting tomorrow, we will have 18 vacancies. So we've made a lot of progress over the last year. We plan on hiring another 5 to 8 certified or experienced officers in about April, and then filling the rest of those vacancies in the July academy class. So the goal is that by come July, the July academy, that we won't have any outstanding vacancies for officers. In October 1st, 2017, the fiscal year 2018, we will, provided there's no significant changes on the federal level, we do have the additional COPS grant that we awarded this year that we deferred to next fiscal year that would create those 15 neighborhood policing officers. So that would create those new vacancies that we would start trying to fill come October. So we've made a lot of progress with the positions that you have helped fund, including the vacancies that we already had in place. And talking about the numbers is one thing, but I'd like to take a second and kind of, many of you have been able to attend some of our swearing-in ceremonies and graduations. I'd like to take a moment and kind of introduce you to the faces of your new officers and just kind of give you a background on a handful of them. We're very proud of the recruiting efforts that we've been doing, not just throughout our region and the state, but even up into Georgia and Alabama, and even in North Carolina. The focus is on certainly diversity and making sure that our police department is reflective of our community and not just in demographics as far as race, but gender, ethnicity, age, and experience. Kelsey Aldridge is one of our recent graduates. She was an assistant manager for the preschool program at Kate Sullivan Elementary School. Steve Alcama is in his 30s, was in the United States Marine Corps, and we got him after 4 years of experience as a North Carolina deputy. Tree Din was born in Vietnam. Both he and his brother are public service oriented. His brother's a Florida Highway Patrol trooper, and he was a student here at Florida State University. Deanna Grant is a Tallahassee native, has attended both TCC and Florida State, and she's a member of the Army National Guard. Tashawn Holloway attended both Appalachian State and Florida A&M, playing football on a scholarship, and has a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. Timothy Murphy, who is probably affectionately known as either their great uncle or grandpa sometimes, has 32 years of law enforcement experience all over. Early in his career, he was in Hialeah, spent basically a full career at the Gainesville Police Department, served a few years at Alachua County as a deputy, and then his family had some great opportunities up here for career opportunities, so he gave up his career down at Alachua County Sheriff and has joined us. Lucian Senatus earned his degree from Barry University down in Miami, was an elementary math school teacher down there, and then came up here to Tallahassee, worked for FAMU in the Department of Social Work. He's now one of our police officers. So there's a big diversity that you see there between experience, geography, and the different skill sets that they're going to bring to make sure that we have the ability to serve our community comprehensively.
I'd also like to point out that your legal counsel is the past executive director of the Boys and Girls Club and has a tremendous amount of experience when it comes to youth, particularly youth from different backgrounds.
Absolutely.
Well, I don't know how you would.
Don't turn red. She's turning red now.
She wasn't happy when I asked her to sit there, so the more I point her out, the more trouble I'm going to be in later.
I don't know how much you credit the academies, the TPD-specific academies, with your ability to recruit and retain, but it seems to me like that's been very successful for your ability to diversify and recruit talent.
The support that started about 2 years ago from the manager's office and from you all, and being able to sponsor people to go to the academy has tremendously enhanced our ability to recruit, because it was such a financial barrier for people to go to the academy full-time for 6 months, not work, do the curriculum, and then apply for a job and go through the couple-month process of hiring afterwards. You're talking maybe being out of, trying to find a job for almost 9 months will go in. So being able to hire the people on the front end has proved tremendously beneficial to our recruiting efforts. It's been money that's been well invested and has had a very positive impact on our ability to attract very qualified candidates. Next one, Dave. Our staff's training does not end when they get through the police academy, or our new hires and our professional civilian support staff does not end there. We provide ongoing training and development for all our personnel. Our goal is to continue to create additional career development for everybody. We're trying to find career pathing, particularly for our civilian support group, because a lot of them, that you come into a job, and that could be the only job within that function. So we're trying to create different tiers, like within records, where there's a customer service area, public records, uniform crime reports technician, because all those different skill sets are required and require additional training. So we're looking at ways to develop different tiers and create career path opportunities, so as their skill set grows, they have the opportunity and ability for future advancement. We're also working on establishing an internal training program on resume writing, on interviewing skills. So we'll have our own employees put in for different positions and promotional opportunities, and the last time they interviewed for a job may have been when they got hired for their entry level. And interviewing skills and resume writing skills are things that are perishable if you haven't done it. So we're trying to make sure that our staff, our people, are competitive, preferably for positions within our agency and within the city, but also if they have great opportunities outside, we want to be able to grow and develop a workforce that makes our entire community stronger. So those are some things that we're doing proactively internally to develop our skill set, not just of our officers, but of all our employees that work at TPD. We also ensure that all of our employees, the fair and impartial policing training, procedural justice training, and community-oriented policing training isn't just the officers. That's the foundation and the values of our entire organization. So whether you talk to someone who works in records, or an officer on the street, or someone who works in forensics, they all have that basic knowledge and understanding of what our responsibility is as a member of the Tallahassee Police Department when we interact with the public who we work for.
And Chief?
Yes, sir.
So when the recruits come in, it's explained to them that, and they see clearly the career path, if they stay with the agency, the career path and what it takes.
They see the different opportunities that there are, either to move laterally through the, for officers, everyone starts as patrol officer. But then they learn about the investigations opportunities, if they want to go into the traffic unit, special operations, the career criminal unit, so they understand what those core responsibilities and skill sets are that you have to learn then if you want to move up in the organization. Okay. And so that path is built out. Here's the stepping stones and things that you need to accomplish once you've learned this part of the job, learn these other things to then be competitive for promotion within the agency.
Okay, thank you.
And we're trying to develop a better plan so that way our civilian support staff have those same opportunities.
Right.
And mapped out for them so they know what those opportunities for progression are.
Okay, thank you. So I would think that has a lot to do with retention as well.
Yes, sir.
See a clear
yes.
career path within the organization.
Everybody wants that opportunity to advance themselves and better themselves, and we want to make sure that those opportunities are there, but we're also helping prepare them so they're ready when those opportunities occur.
Right.
One thing that we've all talked about on different occasions is making sure that our officers and all our employees are fit and healthy and fatigue and stress and everything else. So one of the formal components of the plan is to develop a comprehensive wellness program for the entire agency. One of the things that we are working with FDLE on, they approached us to be a pilot agency for the program that you see there called Blue Courage. That is a comprehensive program that deals with all aspects of policing, from communication, interaction with the public, to issues like nutrition, fatigue, sleep patterns, fitness, nutrition, and leadership development. And they have training blocks available for all those different components of not just, working at a police agency, but also how you deal with life outside of work. So they're looking to pilot this program and implement it in the police academies. They're working with 3 or 4 police academies in the state to look to implement it at the initial level, and they've asked us to be one of the police departments that they're looking to implement it in as well to see how effective it is. So Lieutenant Yan and Deputy Chief Forseth had attended a conference call last week on it, about an hour and a half, to continue to get additional information to see how we can implement. There's some challenges for us because, quite proudly, our agency has moved beyond some of their basic tenets. We were able to accomplish and have already implemented fair and impartial policing and procedural justice, and this covers those introductory tenets. So there's things that we've already covered that they treat as the fundamental of their program, but we were able to implement those things before the President's task force report came out. We've been trying to push the envelope and make sure that we're leading the way and on the cutting edge of those things. So we're trying to mirror up how we would be able to incorporate the other tenets of their program without having people sit through an 8-hour training block that they've already had the fundamentals on. So there's still some specifics to work out, but it's one of the avenues that we're exploring. Again, just want to touch base on this isn't just things that we're talking about. We're actually taking proactive steps to make sure that we're working forward accomplishing these things. We're looking to really tap in. Tallahassee has a wonderful spirit of community and a great opportunity for volunteers between the community at large, our universities, TCC. Deputy Chief Forseth undertook this project as one of his responsibilities. They just finished revamping the entire program, volunteer program, everything from the recruiting process, hiring process, screening process, and they're right now we're in the steps of actively trying to recruit additional volunteers, screen them, and place them throughout the agency. This community has got a rich skill set and a willingness to help others, and we want to be able to tap in that to help make the police department better and use those skill sets to just enhance our abilities to provide our services. We talk all the time about how communication is the key. It doesn't matter what business we're in, what we're trying to accomplish it. If we can't communicate it effectively and two-way communication, then we're not going to make headway. As you've seen, as we started the presentation and throughout, we are actively trying to create different opportunities to engage with the community. We're not waiting for people to come to us. We're trying to reach out, create opportunities for our officers to have those opportunities to engage and meet with the public, our support staff. We do that through a variety of opportunities. Excuse me. You saw the coffee with the cop. Like I said, we've done 5 or 6 so far, and we're in the middle of scheduling another one for February. We've moved those to different McDonald's throughout the city to just make sure that we try to hit different neighborhoods and talk to different groups of people and give them the opportunities. We have our traditional TPD and U quarterly breakfast, where it's an open forum for members of the community to come in and discuss whatever they want to talk about. It's kind of sometimes we joke it's take your shot at the chief day. People from the community show up and they can ask whatever they want to talk about. There's no pre-scripted.
Not literally, right?
Well, verbal sometimes, but
Talking of the shooting.
yes, but it's again, it's an opportunity where people can come and we move it around the city to try to do different locations, and they get to ask whatever they want to talk about.
We can do that too?
Yeah, come on in. We even feed you. There's usually some nice snacks, and Sergeant Highland does a great job trying to make everyone feel welcome. We do little door prizes and give people little gifts to try to participate, and again, make a fun atmosphere where we can talk about whatever they want to. And that's a great way to get feedback on, are we meeting their needs? Are there things that we're missing? Sometimes we think we're dealing with the issue, and we might be dealing with a issue, but we're not dealing with the issue. Sure. And it just, again, those opportunities that we can create are really a positive. We did the Operation Safe Neighborhoods. I think has been a great success over the last 2 summers, and we'll look to continue to build and develop on that and grow on those. We do guest speakers. My staff goes out, not just me, but the majors will go out, and even some of our other staff, lieutenants, sergeants, and our officers speak at homeowners meetings, civic clubs, We have a few of our officers that go out and they'll speak to the criminal justice fraternity at the universities. Usually once or twice a semester, I do some guest speaking at some of the classes, both at FAMU and FSU. Professor Guzman is one of the professors who regularly invites me out to come to his classes. And those are just, again, opportunities to go to people, talk with people in their comfort zone and get that feedback. And then in a few minutes, we're really going to talk about what we're trying to do and promote social media-wise. We've really tried to make a concerted effort this last year through Officer Northway and our adjunct PIOs to really develop our online presence and, again, push out the messaging, make sure that people are aware of what we're doing, what we're trying to accomplish, and what they can do to make themselves safer, too, and make sure that they're armed with that knowledge.
Commissioner Miller?
Well, I wanted to follow up on what? Now, it slipped my mind because I was listening to what he was saying. Come back.
You shouldn't listen.
Listen, I did so well, I distracted you. That's good.
Oh, I remember. I know in the past we've had an officer that was assigned to a homeowners association, and so that that same officer would be at each of the homeowners meetings in a certain neighborhood. Do you still do that?
We try to. With the staffing issues over last year, as we're getting back up to staffing, that is the intent, and that is the ultimate goal with the grant for next year with the neighborhood officers, where that's going to be their primary, they'll be the primary point of contact for those neighborhoods that they're assigned in. Okay. So we try to, right now our community relations unit attends the bulk of those meetings, and they are all geographically based, and they're the kind of the liaison, but we also try to have the patrol officers who work that area try to stop by when they can at the different meetings. Again, the people get to see the officer face-to-face in a different environment.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Commissioner Miller, you must have been reading my mind because I was just sitting here thinking about that because I remember 20 years ago when we started my neighborhood association, our neighborhood association in Tuskegee, we were assigned then an officer. It was Tanya, what's Tanya's last name? Bryant?
Tanya Bryant, yes.
Tanya Bryant, yes. So I remember even back that far ago, I remembered her being our contact officer, and she did a phenomenal job. And we knew that whatever we needed assistance with, we could call Tanya, and she would always respond. Yeah.
Yep. And that's the goal, that officers are assigned a geographic area, and that has been the push to make sure that they're that primary point of contact. Right, like I said, our community relation unit funnels a lot of that right now, but as we're continuing to fill those vacancies and our patrol staffing is to where it needs to be, those responsibilities are going back to our patrol function, so that that's coordinated through our 2 patrol majors, and they take the lead on that.
Yeah, and I think that would be real helpful, particularly in light of the fact that I know that there is an effort now to organize particularly the neighborhood associations and homeowners associations on the south side of town through CAN, and so to have that kind of relationship again.
Yes. And then we've been working with them. Certainly, you're very familiar with the success stories that we had at Wilson Green, and we're looking to expand that out to the additional associations.
Right.
Okay.
Chief, I'm watching the clock. I'm wondering if we can get you to go to the violent crime statistics and pick up on those stats going forward.
You just wanted me to skip the sales pitch for the new facility again, right?
That's been made on your behalf.
No.
Yeah.
And again, thank you. I mean, that's obviously a need, and we appreciate that. That's tremendous support. The statistics that you see, both the city manager and assistant city manager touched on the base that obviously violent crime was our #1 focus going through the end of 2015 and 2016. That was the focus of our resources, the establishment of the original violent crimes response team, and the additional one. The numbers that you see here, those are crimes that were reported to TPD. We have not incorporated all the calls yet that the sheriff's office responded to. Based on the semi-annual report, there won't be much deviation. The numbers will grow a little bit, but percentages should be fairly close.
When would that state report?
The report's due to the state the end of the first week of February. So our records department's working with Sheriff McNeil's records department to finalize their numbers and then to incorporate them in.
Do you have an early sense of what we're looking at, Leon County compared to the state?
I don't. All the sheriff's office reports to us is what they actually respond to within the city limits. So I won't have the entire counties. We'll just, once we have their numbers incorporated, then I will forward them to Ms. Barber for her to share with the manager and yourselves. You can see the violent crime statistics. There's a significant decrease throughout the year, a 16% decrease overall, and significant decreases in every category except robbery, which was just a small decrease. Obviously, the big one for all of us was the aggravated assault, which encompasses a lot of our gun crimes and shootings, which have gone down dramatically this year.
Could you just spend a moment talking about, I don't know what the policing looked like. I don't know if we had luck. I doubt it was.
There's some of it.
Maybe. I'd love to hear your analysis of how we.
With a little bit, I think, talk goes to the Violent Crime Response Team. That's the specific enforcement efforts. You helped fund and establish that initial team that we were able to get up and running. Last year, just that unit seized 33 firearms. They seized over 2,500 grams of marijuana, 1,200 grams of Molly. That's covered a little bit further in your presentation. And they made over 200 felony weapons and drug arrests. So just that one unit of 6 officers. There was another unit that started towards the end of October. So, they've had some impact, but most of that number was that one squad. And they focused in those areas that we identified in the gun violence reports of where we had the highest incidence of gun crimes. So they were primarily focused in South City, the Frenchtown, Griffin Heights area, and focused based on our traditional crime trends and what was going on at the time. And their target was, robberies and shootings and things and crimes of that nature. The thing that I think is important to note, though, too, they also have a proactive human services component that the unit does, because we've all talked about the human services component is so critical. And what we do is, in partnership with the Sheriff's Office, again, is they maintain what they call a SPIRIT database, and that is a service provider database. And what part of the role of the Violent Crime Response Team is to identify people through criminal intelligence reports, information, who may be involved in these violent crimes, and they go out and we make contact with them proactively. And we basically say, we know who you are. We know some of the things that you've been involved in. You do have alternatives. There's resources available to you. And we provide them with those resources. We not only do we provide them the contact, but we also provide the contact on the other end. And through the coordination, the Sheriff's Office supports the database, is we will provide the different service providers. They will reach out proactively to the person. Do they need education? Is there a substance abuse issue and things like that? And they've had some success with that. We were able to help one felon find a residence and gain employment. So it's not just making arrests. It's not just, there are bad people who need to be arrested and taken off the streets. Right. Mm-hmm. But there are also people who need an opportunity. And part of their job is finding those people, reaching out, and making them aware of that there are those opportunities out there if they want to take advantage of it. So they do have that two-pronged approach. It is not just focused on the enforcement side.
Mm-hmm. Chief, can I ask you one
Yes,
thing?
Sir.
Because I have personally my family has been personally victimized by this, but after I started hearing that apparently it's happening a lot in the community, and that's where people go through neighborhoods or apartment complexes and
the cars.
doing the cars. Yeah, both my wife and I had our cars burglarized that way, and then I heard of, well, of course, what happened with the apartment complexes when schools started. Right. Is that something that we're focusing on, particularly education? And
yes. And actually, if you want, Dave, why don't you skip down to that? Part of our property crime initiatives has been a media campaign.
Okay.
And go ahead. This is one of the PSAs that we put together, and we posted both on Twitter and Facebook, addressing just what you were talking about, Commissioner.
Yeah, especially these students. I mean, they just fall prey.
This is just about a 25, 30-second clip.
Hi, I'm Officer Dave Northway with the Tallahassee Police Department. Did you know the easiest way to prevent your car from being burglarized is to simply lock your doors? There are criminals who are walking parking lots and neighborhoods looking for only unlocked vehicles. They simply skip the locked ones and take whatever they can from your unlocked car. Do yourself a favor. Lock it, hide it, keep it.
And that's where Ms. Barbara was talking about. We're really trying to utilize social media, traditional media, to get the word out and educate. There is a personal responsibility component to these crimes of opportunity. And what you see with a lot of the vehicle burglaries is cars are left unlocked. Somebody leaves a briefcase, a backpack, a purse sitting on a front seat, and somebody walking by sees it and, oh, look what's that.
Do
Yeah.
you have a sense of how many of those were like that versus someone getting a window or something busted out?
I
or-
can tell you anecdotally, at one point last year in Killarn, we had 41 of them in one weekend, and 39 out of the 41 were unlocked vehicles.
Southwood had the same situation.
And not that it's funny, but we'll talk, and we'll talk, homeowners associations, in different forums, and we'll say, please take your stuff out of the car, please lock your car. And, oh, well, who would do that?
The person who just-
And yet we have lots and lots of cases that way, and we have people who leave their car keys in their car, and then they're surprised when their car is stolen in the morning.
They put an
I'm not pointing at any fingers or,
extra key in the console.
yeah, they leave their key in the console. People, you know,
I think Reese Goat does that.
and what's his address again, sir? Oh, I'm just kidding.
What's that car you drive?
So,
They
well,
wouldn't take that.
oh.
You know how big that thing is?
Actually, Dave, just go back to the communication initiatives. So what we're trying to do is make people aware of those tips.
Yeah.
You can see not just that one. Keep going, Dave. One more, please. These are the kind of messages we're putting out. Is your vehicle secure? To lock it, remove it, lose it, and trying to remind people of what they can do to help protect themselves.
Yeah. Chief Perry, do you have a educational campaign similar to that at all?
Not as sophisticated. We just try to remind our students through orientation, through periodic programs that they have to secure their valuables. And we have an even worse problem with them leaving their residence hall doors unlocked in burglaries and crimes of opportunity. So we are continuously trying to do what Chief DeLeo and his staff are doing, just remind them.
Yeah, and I saw a report on the news last night,
Excuse me.
or it might have been sometime this week, where thieves now are stealing the code from your remote control, and they can actually get your code and open your car with the remote.
Unfortunately, that happened to me. Chief DeLeo knows my vehicle was broken into using some type of code or gadget, and there's a device at Radio Shack that
Yeah.
can scan the signal. Sometimes we leave our keys too close to the front door, and it picks up that signal. It could unlock your car, so you have to not leave valuables in your vehicle, period.
Right.
Not leave them in your vehicle.
Yes, ma'am.
This happened to my husband's car also. I mean, and that means that there just aren't a lot of folks awake at 3 in the morning and people can just wander around. Our cars are parked pretty far back from the street, and, you know, you'd think, well, nobody's going to come back there, but there's just nobody up to see, and so folks have free reign. I was wondering if you are, this particular ad, for example, I mean, you could be distributing this to the neighborhood associations for publication in their newsletter, and I just wondered if you did that, because that's one of the ways we realized, you know, lock your car, and, you know, that's one way that they got the word out about how much of this was going on.
I'll have to follow up. I'm not sure whether or not we provide physical hard copies for them to publish, but I know what we do is we try to link a lot of the social media into the different associations, Facebooks and our Facebook and things like that through
Do you
that.
ask them to go ahead and publicize that in their newsletters? Because that might be,
We'll
you know,
follow up on
a
that.
push, a little bit of a push.
And then can you talk to us a little bit about, Cynthia or Chief, how do you police, other than the informing, because this is a driver to our overall crime rate? So other than relying on the wisdom of people to lock their cars, what other strategies are you all pursuing on?
I'll just touch base on a few of the things. Over the last couple of months, we've been doing joint operations again with the Sheriff's Office. We talked about also as well with Gadsden County as far as with auto thefts, conducting surveillance of hot spots and basically drop areas where we know people will drop the stolen car. So conducting surveillance there, one, to not only recover the vehicle, but help to identify the different suspects. So we're conducting proactive investigations, not just, you know, our investigators' traditional hours are 8 to 5. Well, they're out doing these surveillances at midnight, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning. So again, being more proactive and doing good, you know, good old-fashioned police work and getting out there conducting surveillance and again sharing that information and intelligence. The social media campaigns, we did a lot of through the holiday season, doing a lot of surveillance, both with marked vehicles as kind of a deterrent, but also unmarked vehicles in our high volume shopping areas to try to either A, deter different criminal activity, or B, catch people trying to break into cars where people will go shopping, they'll go drop off some packages in their car, and then it'll go back in, or they'll drive to another store and go into it, so we're using a multitude of also investigative enforcement actions on top of the education.
One of the things that we talked about, and it's a good moment, to thank you for, and the city manager and everybody else, the great information you provided us to Facebook and to tweet. And I know that the city did a really good job sending out text messages during the storm so people could recover and they knew what was going on. It seems to me, though, what we talked about was gathering as many mobile numbers as we can through our utility, and that way we could know geographically where they are. Couldn't conceivably the chief use those same, or our communications department technology, to send out, for example, last year when all those break-ins in the cars were occurring in Southwood? Because I remember getting a lot of calls, people were talking about break-ins, and I had to let them know it wasn't a break-in. People left their cars open. They left a sign on the window that said, "Take whatever you want, I'm leaving my car open." It seems to me there's an opportunity for us to send out messaging that way too, so maybe we could coordinate that.
And there's another platform too that's called Nextdoor, and it's neighborhood specific. I probably get more notices than I want to from them, but I always know that people are either having people going in their mailboxes, taking packages off I knew that like almost right away. And I had packages being delivered that week. They were saying that someone was following the car, the delivery, and almost as soon as it gets dropped off, this person steals it. So
Right.
just knowing that, those are the kinds of platforms too that we can utilize to help get information out to large groups of people. It seems to be a very active app that people are using that talks about things that are happening geographically close to each other.
Yeah.
And you can sign up by your neighborhood, but for my neighborhood, I also get all the Kalaran updates as well. So that's another good one if there are things that are happening in specific geographical areas that we will work with to deliver those messages.
And I know we're running short on time, but we do want to just highlight one more public communication initiative and education. I know certainly with the events in the country over the last year or so with officer-involved shootings and traffic stops and things like that, this was an opportunity where Mr. Akbar and I have had different conversations since I've been here, and he's been a good supporter and provider of information and feedback and someone who's I respect and value his opinion. And this was an opportunity where we partnered together, because a lot of questions we'll get is, well, what am I supposed to do when I get stopped? How am I supposed to act? How am I supposed to behave? So it was an opportunity where we partnered together to create, and we're going to start creating a series of videos, but this is the initial video. This will be the first time it's being shown publicly, and it'll be released today.
Can't wait.
But on what we're trying to accomplish of traffic stops, and Allison's going to talk about how some of this fits into the city's overall communication plan about reaching out to our community.
Well, yeah, and I'll be brief. I'll just add that this came out of the commission workshop that we recently had about identifying different platforms in which to share information and ensuring that we create content the way that our customers and our citizens want to receive it, and that actually encourage them to share it. So it's a short video.
Right.
It's very concise. It'll be shared across all platforms, and it really gives a good overview of what you as the citizen can expect from an interaction with one of our police officers. So we'll show it to you now, and then I'll ask you after you see it later today, it'll be aired, or it'll be added to our social media. Please share it and encourage your friends to share it. Okay?
Do that.
Hi, I'm Tallahassee Police Chief Michael DeLeo, and I have the privilege of serving as your Chief of Police.
Hello, I'm Attorney Mutaki Akbar, born and raised here in Tallahassee, Florida. Public safety is a shared responsibility. All of us play a critical role in keeping our community safe.
We have partnered together to produce these short videos in hopes that you have a better understanding of your rights as a citizen.
As members of the community, we all have a shared responsibility to ensure the safety of our community and our officers. We hope these videos can give everyone a better understanding of how we can work together.
Through communication and mutual respect, we can make Tallahassee a stronger, safer community.
Hi, I'm Sergeant Amy Highland with the Tallahassee Police Department. I have been a part of the Tallahassee Police Department for the past 16 years. 13 and a half of those years has been as a police officer. Something to remember during a traffic stop is to remain calm. Traffic stops really don't take that long. They typically end with a warning or a citation. Unless you have a specific reason or the officer asked you to, you simply want to stay in your car until the officer comes up to you and greets you. I've been pulled over before, so I know how you feel. I get anxious, and I'm sure you will too. I'm going to ask you for 3 things. I'm going to ask you for your license, registration, and proof of insurance. This is how the Tallahassee Police Department performs a professional traffic stop. Hi.
Hey there.
How are you?
All right.
Okay, good. Hey, I'm Sergeant Highland with the Tallahassee Police Department. Do you know why I stopped you?
No clue.
Okay. Well, you ran the stop sign back there, okay?
Okay.
Do you have your driver's license, registration, and proof of insurance?
Yeah, my driver's license is in my back pocket.
Okay, you can go ahead and get that copy. Okay, thank you. Hang tight, I'll be right back. Hi. Okay. What I'm gonna do is issue a warrant today, okay? All right, next time you wanna make sure that you stop at the stop sign so that you don't cause a traffic crash or get a citation the next time, okay? All right, thank you. You have a great day, okay?
Thanks, you too.
Great.
All stops that way.
That was very good.
Nice work.
And one of the things we're trying to achieve with these videos is not simply providing information, which we hope makes the interaction a better, clearer interaction, but also to establish accountability on the side of our office, for officers. While I have full confidence that they are doing the right thing, that they're making a professional stop, as you've just seen, this does say to the public, when you interact with us, you should expect that. And I like having that, basically a full disclosure of what you should expect when you interact with us. So we're trying to create a series of videos, like the chief had indicated, that can be shared on all types of platforms on how you should, what you should experience when you deal with us. So you'll see more of those coming.
Who shot that?
Alex Workman, Ariel, Tallahassee.
We paid for, that was like a contract?
Sure, yes.
Nicely done.
But, through, working with Mutaki, we saw this as a great opportunity to partner, not, again, community policing, not just the police department, but working together with the message that we can send within the agency, outside of the agency, the community, what we can do to make overall Tallahassee better.
Yeah, smart. Other pieces on y'all's presentation?
We think we're done, unless you have questions of us. That concludes the formal presentation.
Okay. Commissioners, anything on that? Commissioner Maddox?
I just want to thank the Tallahassee Police Department and our surrounding law enforcement agencies. We are very lucky to have the level of professionalism that we have in the city of Tallahassee with Leon County, our sister agencies, and TPD. And TPD has long been a leader of progressive policing for a very long time. And so I feel that our city is extremely lucky to have the folks that we have working at TPD.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Great. Commissioner Richardson?
Yeah, I would echo Commissioner Maddox's remarks and also say that one of the recurring themes I heard throughout your presentation, Chief, was the fact that this commission and administration has been willing to invest the fiscal resources, and that has made the difference as well.
Without the resources, these are just dreams. But because you have supported us so strongly the last few years, we're building on the foundation that was there and just continuing to grow the way that we need to in the areas that we can really make sure that we're addressing, the internal needs to make sure we can provide the best services. And without the resources you provide, we wouldn't be able to do that.
Yeah, so we've heard what the community has said, that one of our major responsibilities is to ensure that our citizens are safe, that our visitors are safe, and that our neighborhoods are safe, and we've responded to that.
Still have more to do.
Yes, sir.
Oh,
We're not
yes,
done.
yes, no question.
I just want to mention on the gun buyback, which we didn't address, and I know we talked about in some of our own private meetings, but I was looking at what Boston, city of Boston, which had a buyback similar to ours. It was sort of the all gun, takers of all guns, that kind of thing. Whether or not those type of guns were the same ones used in the committal of crime. So they ended up taking all guns that would come, but the incentive, which they increased to $200 per weapon, were only applied to the types of guns that they needed to get off the street because they were often ones that showed up in the commits of crime. I would just encourage. I mean, I don't like, clearly the budget for the year is determined, but I think if we were to get a little more enticing in the offer. I've gone to some of the buybacks. I've seen some of the. I mean, they look like Civil War type weapons that come in. They're not what I think anybody is going to use. I mean, they may use them. I don't know, but they don't look like the type that are the kinds of weapons that we're having issues with when we think about the kind of weapons used for crimes.
And we'll follow up, and we certainly get some of the old, it's great-grandpa's gun, and we just want it to be gone, but we got 32 weapons at the gun buyback, and most of those were handguns.
Great.
And those handguns are what are used in primarily most of our shootings.
Right.
That's right.
So we will look at expanding that more.
Yeah, appreciate it. Commissioner Miller.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, first of all, I want to thank you for being responsive to my interest in the strategic plan. This is great. What I would hope to see also, since we're entering budget, is some kind of immediate and then long-term expectation of finances that you're going to need so that we aren't addressing this year to year to year to year. And you have a lot of initiatives. I know you've probably scheduled those out financially and as well as informationally. And so I think it's going to be really important that you begin to unfold that for us, especially in what's coming next and what's coming after that and what's coming after that, because that's going to be very helpful to understand exactly what the 5-year plan is going to entail as far as investment, and then we can begin to budget for all of that so that at the end of 5 years we've accomplished all the goals that you've set out. Thank you.
The only other point I will make is I think last year between 2015 and 2016, something like 600 or so folks were estimated to come back to Tallahassee, Leon County from prison and jail. And the estimates for 17, 18, 19, I think, are like 1,000 folks who are estimated. And we know that the recidivism rate is much higher amongst those folks than they are amongst the general population. So I know we've invested, this commission invested and ready for work, and I think I think the sheriff made a commitment also to sort of helping to support, those kinds of programs. But I would, have a very, very keen and critical eye toward the kinds of resources that exist in this community that are dealing with folks returning to this community. Because if there isn't a pathway, to independence and, making a way for yourself, those will be the first ones that we find ourselves, encountering again. And so some of the work is completely within your jurisdiction, right? That's the stuff that your officers and you all are tasked with. And then there are other things that happen outside of it that are just contributors, but they're predicted contributors. The numbers suggest it, the research suggests it, so on and so forth. So I'm encouraged by the level of sophistication you all are using, you and the team are using to apply to how we deal with policing in the community. And I would just encourage that we also have a real keen eye on the returning residents to this community and how they might impact the crime rate. Commissioner?
Mr. Mayor, I had just one other question. One of the things that Commissioner Miller talked earlier about the officers assigned to the homeowners associations, but Chief McNeil, or Sheriff McNeil now, but Chief McNeil talked about how crime was reduced in Tallahassee when he was chief. I think part of that too was, if I remember correctly, they used the satellite offices in some of the hotspot areas. Do you anticipate, now that your staffing is coming back to appropriate levels, of maybe looking at doing that again, Chief?
The conversations and the research that we've had, the problem is you get so little foot traffic for the resources you have to dedicate to staffing them.
Okay.
And we're getting back to the level of where we need to be to do proactive policing within patrol in the streets. If we start taking them and putting them in office buildings and storefronts, we're going to lose those opportunities because then we're waiting for the public to come to us. That, I think, it would be a longer-term vision as the city continues to grow, that maybe we don't just have a primary police facility, maybe long-term we need to have a satellite one, but that's further down the road, but we're not there yet.
Okay. Well,
If I could, I'd just interject briefly. I was part of pushing that, and we brought it back because it was a failure.
yeah.
And the feedback we got was it didn't have any discernible change in any of the statistics, both crime and community relations. And the officers said, listen, we're much better off on the road. The best substation ever has 4 tires and can move around. So we had on Tennessee and Ocala, we had on, that's now Super Perro. We had one on South Side over in the Holton Street area. So, I mean,
Joe Louis.
one in Joe Louis.
Okay.
But it didn't pan out like we thought it would.
Okay.
Commissioner Ziffer.
Mr. Mayor, and I don't know how to do this, and I don't know if it makes complete sense, but we all know that, because we've all heard different things, that there's a considerable amount of potential projects that may be coming our way, construction projects. We also are talking about potentially another police station, and I know that our economic development efforts will hopefully bring to fruition more jobs, but it seems to me with that many folks that are coming out of prison and the city's commitment 2 years ago or a year ago, we're removing ban the box. I shouldn't say removing, but implementing ban the box. Is there a way for us to start to develop maybe some type of real strategic plan to get some of these folks that are coming out actually placed or connected with a lot of these developers that we know are coming in where there potentially may be some jobs?
Yeah.
It just seems like there's an opportunity there, and if we don't seize it, then it goes away because it comes and goes.
I agree 100% with your thinking there, and maybe that is, on the ready for work piece, because it's a trusted partner. There's a assigned curriculum, the job training and professionalism piece, that if there were a city manager, a stronger bridge between where our built environment money is already going, that we might create a greater nexus for employment.
And also connectivity with those potential developers that are coming to town to let them know how important this is to us.
Yep.
The developers and the contractor community.
That's
Yes.
right.
Yes, sir.
Could I add something? And you probably remember that the mayor and I think Commissioner Maddox went over the edge to raise money for just these types of programs. The reason I bring that up is that there are organizations now in town that are attempting to address this particular need, and if we could somehow make sure that those organizations are communicating with one another and all working in conjunction with one another, because that's going to really, I think, as a unified front, they're going to make a lot more progress, so they don't duplicate effort, or they can reinforce the effort that one has, enhanced.
Agree. Commissioners, anything else? Seeing none, thank you all.
Thank you.
And,
Appreciate your
Chief,
time.
thank you for being here as well. We're adjourned.
One down.
When you have both. I don't know when you do that, but it just.
Everything went great, didn't it?
I think there's
Supposed to do this.
I love that.
Crash it?
No, I agree. And I, anybody?
Yeah, I told Kyle we would.